Hello again. As David said, our first snooker break of this year's Embassy Championship, the time when you have the time to air your views, or at least we try and answer your questions with the letters that you send in to us, and they're always very interesting, letters on rules, queries, players, and just about everything else. And they're already coming in. Just to remind you, the address to write to is Snooker Break, BBC Television, The Crucible Theatre, 55 Norfolk Street, Sheffield, S11DA. Snooker Break, you can add BBC TV as well, but I think they know us. Crucible Theatre, Norfolk Street, Sheffield, S11DA. Letters which you send to us, and we hope they'll come flooding in as ever about the game of snooker and the players. Can I just mention that we really don't want any more about the fact that the maximum break is not 147. We do know how you can get 155. We've got a file that thick about it, and we have answered it a few times, so no more of those, please, but the rest, very welcome indeed. What are we going to do in this first snooker break, then? Well, we're going to put the emphasis on coaching and aids to the game. When you talk about coaching, you've probably read in your newspapers over the last year or two the name of Frank Callan. Now, you might say, who's Frank Callen? He is a man, of course, who revitalized Doug Mountjoy. You may well have seen him here working in this particular championship the other afternoon with John Parrott there on one of the practice tables, coaching, advising. And the players pay so much respect to him. They say he's a bit of a magic man, a bit of a guru. So who exactly is Frank Callan, and what exactly does he do? We'll try and answer that today here on Snooker Break, because Frank Callan is in fact here with me as one of my guests. Frank, welcome. Guru, magician. What do you feel about that?
It's a bit embarrassing, really, because there's only two things I know, really, and that's fish and snooker, and I've packed up with the fish job, and now there's only snooker left. So
okay, what does an ex-Blackpool fishmonger who's an old-age pensioner know so much about snooker that he can look after Steve Davis, you can look after Doug Mountjoy? You transformed Doug Mountjoy. Mountjoy said all his new success was down to you. What do you actually do?
in Doug's case, he had most of the attributes. He had natural talent, he had bottle, he was okay for the big occasion, and he was willing to work hard. The one thing he lacked was method. In other words, he just played the game by ear. And if that's the phrase you can use, but sooner or later you've just got to understand what you're doing, because one little fault can upset everything. And if the player has nobody to turn to, it's just a case of a mind-blowing exercise. One thing, one fault leads to another, and before he knows where he is, his confidence is gone, and so that's his game gone altogether.
Where does all this knowledge come from? Where does this knowledge come from? What's your background in the game?
Well, though I'm not very clever academically, I was always interested in snooker, and with my own game I had problems, and so I think that's my nature, that I'm curious. And so right from the days when Joe Davis had wrote his first book, I bought the book which we all regarded as the Bible, and so I just interested myself in Joe's teaching, and then it just took off from there.
Do you regard yourself as a bit of a psychiatrist? Is it so much in the mind, this game? Can you instill confidence into a player?
Not so much, except that if you have the knowledge of what you're doing, it will add to your confidence. Anybody who hasn't got what they commonly call nowadays bottle, well, they've no chance when they go in the pit to play in the big time. But if they have a knowledge of what they're doing, it's got to add to the confidence. So in that respect, I suppose you could say it's right.
Terry Griffiths is sitting there beside you, and Terry is one of the players. There's been a long string of them that you've worked with. In fact, you were working with Terry here yesterday. Terry, what does he do? Is he a magic man?
Yes, he does. He does provide some magic for the players. I think the players been involved with Frank become friends of Frank as well, because of the way he is and his interest in the game. But from a personal point of view, I mean, I went into the technique of the game in about 1982, and I got trapped in, like Frank was saying, he done with Joe Davis's book. And I was just a natural player, just played the game and had no idea what I was doing. Some days it worked, some days it didn't. It worked sometimes because I won the World Championships with it. But then I got trapped into looking at the technical side, and I wanted to know why I was doing it well. And really, in some ways, my game has gone back through it, you know, because I've gained more knowledge of what I'm doing, but it doesn't always help you. But you must have a method to play to, and I think an instinctive player, like we talk about, a natural flair player people talk about, I've never quite understood what it means, you know, it means, because I always thought natural flair was someone that just picked up a cue and hit the ball.
Yeah.
But really, when you look at the likes of Steve Davis, who people say haven't got natural flair, I mean, I can't understand why people say that, because obviously his record speaks for itself.
What's Frank done for you? He was working with you, in fact, out there yesterday. All of a sudden I saw Frank crouched over you and moving the arm. What was he doing?
Well, we were talking about my cue action, and I always refer to Frank if I get problems with my cue action. And like he's been doing with Doug, I mean, I've been going to Frank for quite a number of years, and I feel he's somebody I can talk to on the same level about my cue action. There's not many people I've found over the years that I can speak to, and at the moment he's looking at my game and altering a few things that we discussed here during the days, and hopefully it'll better me when I go out to play next. But
so you're going to win this championship then?
Most probably, but there's no, well, there's nobody left in now, is there? I don't know. No, I think it's being curious, like Frank has said it all, really. I want to know what I'm doing when I'm playing well now, and possibly in the earlier years I was just glad to go on and play the game, and now I find I get a lot more enjoyment out of the game now because I know what I'm doing.
Well, that's one side of coaching, and sitting with you is Jack Karnehm, who is, in fact, the English national coach. Obviously, young players can't come here, Jack, and have the benefit of Frank Callan. What's the official side of coaching? You're the English national coach. How does it work? I've got a young son. I want him to learn how to play snooker. What does he do?
Well, there is a national coaching scheme. I mean, the very things that Mr. Callan and Terry have been talking about, they may amaze some people, but the fact is that very, very good players do play off natural ability and flair. Now, when you get into the pit in this sort of situation, it's as tough as any sport. And if you haven't got discipline and technique, it's that gives you the strength.
Okay, so where does my young son get this?
Well, this is the reason why we have a National Coaching Foundation, which takes children up from 8, 9, 10 years of age up to 17 years of age, and we teach them the basic principles of stance, technique, and so on. And when this happens, the very things that Terry's talking about of being, and I mean, Terry is a bit special, and he's just confessed to the fact that he's virtually winning the World Championship and he's not sure what he's doing. Well, now, the time to learn that and to create the good habits are when you're young. Because when the danger is with the likes of Terry and some of the other professionals, they come into the ranks, they're playing like fury, and they can't seem to make the steps forward that they should do.
Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but where do I actually get this knowledge? I mean, where do I apply to? Where do I find my nearest coach?
There is an address, which I believe you have,
where
you can write and you can ask for the area coach in your area, and you go and see him. He arranges a course where he will take 4, 6 or 8 youngsters, and he will take them through a course of how to stand, how to play, and of course he will use his judgment with the ability that he thinks the kids have, and so on.
So there it is then, BACC, Coronet House, Queen Street, Leeds, LS122N, and you write to that and you will be given the information as to where your nearest coach is and help you along the way. It's a big subject, this business of coaching. Thank you, Frank, Terry, and Jack. It's a big subject, and perhaps if we have a snooker break next week, we've got 2 or 3, if we have the time, we'll go into it just a little further. There's very many views on how you coach a snooker player.